the question becomes, what are you prepared to let go of? And see, that's the... See, we generally find with, say, for example, elite athletes, they can live really horrible lives. Okay? Because the sole focus of their being is that which they are focused on. To give you an extreme image of this, the swimmer Mark Spitz, okay, won a whole bunch of, I think it was 7 gold medals in one Olympic game. First person to have ever achieved such a... And an Australian interviewer was asking him how did he achieve this, and his response was, well, the devil is in the detail. And the interviewer was saying, sort of leaned back and saying, you know, what do you mean by this? And he said, oh, well, okay, do you realise that in freestyle you actually have to pull hardest on the 12th, 13th and 14th stroke, harder than any other stroke in the race? That level of detail. And he's going, but hang on, how is that? Why, 12, 13, 14? And he said, well, it's really simple. You've got a dozen men jumping into a pool all at the same time. There's a wave that runs to the end of the pool, hits the end of the pool and bounces back. And when do swimmers come in contact with it? You break through that and you've got a definite advantage. Now, the level of focus and attention to detail to the exclusion of... These guys are absolutely maniacal about their sense of focus on that which they do. Now, you come to me and go, I want to be an elite sports person. I go, absolutely wonderful. You actually have to do this, 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 and this, but you also have to let go of this, 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 and this. And do you know what? Most people, that's the difference between the elite and the would-be. And if you can come to me and go, yes, I'm prepared to do this, then we can change that. Actually, do you know the change is really simple? The change component is really, really simple. Getting the structure and the permission to change, now that is the number of people who want to change but stay the same is really quite amazing. Now, at the point in which you can come and tell me the goal is everything, and I will do anything to get there, and I will, more importantly, I'll let go of anything in order to get there, it's a done deal. Really, really straightforward. And actually, that's absolutely true. Yeah, okay. I'm depressed. An extreme of this is the subject. One of my students was dealing with a client with epilepsy. And the person had had epilepsy for 20-something years. They had been unemployed for an extensive period of time and receiving unemployment benefits. They were on medication for their epilepsy. And they were able to negotiate to a point where the person was able to come off all medication for the epilepsy, but they still had to have the occasional epileptic seizure between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning. Why?
So that he can claim he's epileptic and get the benefit. Yeah, that's what I thought.
And that was the... It held him there. Because he hadn't acquired any other skills, and his belief was that if he let go of this, then he wouldn't be able to do that. So you understand how precise we're actually talking about. The level of precision is actually surgical. So from a clinical perspective, there's many, many things. The subject of epilepsy is, in many cases, it's an internal argument where something is building on the inside of the brain, and then all of a sudden there's a storm which runs from one side of the brain to the other. If we can figure out what the storm is, there's a very high probability that the epilepsy will disappear completely. Phobias are, in a clinical realm, our bread and butter, because a phobia is generally an unconscious link, okay, so some sort of stimulus to emotion which is overwhelming. Well, how long did it take for us to rearrange some of those links? In other words, it was done in seconds. We have a lovely piece of film where we have in the morning an individual who cannot climb a ladder to change a light globe. Excuses, sweating, shaking. The highest he got was 1 foot on the rung of the ladder. We had about a 20-minute conversation with him in a park, and then we took him up to the top of Centre Point Tower to get him to lean over the edge. And he's literally leaning over the edge doing this going, huh? This is impossible. What had happened is that as a young child, he'd fallen out of a tree, and as he's falling, he said the words, "I am dead," which triggered all of his adrenal glands, which triggered all of his fight-flight responses. And so any time he looked down at the world in this direction, he had this incredible phobic response. So what did we have to do? We had to remove the belief of "I am dead," and then we separated the images from the emotion, and as a byproduct, the phobia was removed. So really quite... This is not psychology. I need you to get this. It's neurology. It's a different animal, and we frequently get so caught up in the world of psychology that we don't pay attention to neurology. Now, please hear, my objective is never to become a psychologist. Okay, I don't want to grow up to be a psychologist or a counsellor for that matter. My area and love is the love of neurology and how it makes us do stuff. Okay.
So you can help people with skin problems?
Frequently, because a lot of the skin issues are, in many cases, around the subject of grief and self-loathing. So a lot of acne is around self-loathing, and a lot of things like eczema is frequently around the subject of grief. And so, yes. Psoriasis, because it's a slightly different thing, there's usually that self-loathing, anger about situations, something that they just can't tolerate. And it literally is a behaviour and an emotional component or emotional reaction to something in their environment. Now, it could be a relationship or an event. Okay.
Stress. I used to get it when I was stressed.
No, it's something that you just can't stand. Arthritis. Arthritis is arthritis is frequently a condition of, it's an autoimmune condition where the body is trying to destroy itself. Often it's the subject of intense anger. But not anger that's in front of us, anger that's rattling around on the inside of the brain, way in the crevice of something that could have happened when you were this big. And yet you don't know what it is. And because you don't cognitively know what it is, your ability to go and fix it is zero. Yeah.
So how do you explain then dogs that they have arthritis? That means they also can have anger.
The anger, yeah.
It's anger, yeah.
Excuse me, what is anger? Okay, what is anger?
Frustration or something.
Can I make it really simple? Anger is the emotion that allows us to run forward. Fear is the emotion that allows us to run backwards. It's highly complex, isn't it? What happens when we're confused and we don't know what to do? And that emotion comes out through many, many different systems. What is the largest excretory organ in the human body? The skin. Okay, and so when we've got this issue, it will frequently try to come out through that sort of format. Good.
When you said your ability to fix it or sort it out is zero, you mean by yourself?
Oh yes, by yourself. Because how can you find... Yeah, you can't fix it by yourself because you don't know. No amount of searching inside a locked room will find the keys if they're outside. And it doesn't matter how good you are. And in fact, if anything, the more you search, the more desperate you become, the more disillusioned you become, the more despondent you become, the more self-critical, and your self-esteem becomes compromised because you're searching and not finding. Do you with my? Okay, and so, and the solution. Look, someone put it very eloquently. The solution for getting out of the box is in big letters printed on the outside of the box. And so, therefore, in those sorts of things, we do need a person to help.